Welcome to part 3 of Citizens Forum. Once again, I'd like to thank our volunteer crew and Shaw staff who make it happen, and it's here in the Memorial Arena being filmed on Tuesday, June the 4th. Our guest in this segment is Blake Hunter, and Blake is, I guess, the main man behind a company called Good Seed Hemp. I was in Hemp and Company where I bought this shirt, as a matter of fact, a while ago, and they were selling this hemp seed, and I thought it looked kind of interesting. So, Blake, this is a product. Let's talk about the nutrition of this product first, and because it looks like a pretty good food source.
It's a very, very good food source. It was actually part of my original inspiration to get into hemp was the nutrition. Hemp is what you would call a superfood. It contains more digestible protein than any other plant seed. As well as that, it has a very nice balance of omega-3 and 6, which are the essential fatty acids that are good for our hearts and good for our brains. So in one hemp seed, you get your required dose of your protein and you get your levels of omega oil. So I shouldn't say in one hemp seed. In 2 tablespoons of hemp seed, you get a good dose of your daily amount of protein and your daily amount of omega oils. So that nutritious food that is grown in Canada really appealed to me early on in my journey with this company, because I was seeing a lot of the superfoods being consumed were imported from very far away. And I saw, well, here's a crop we can grow in Canada. It's an amazing superfood, and it's fairly new. Canada only allowed hemp to be farmed industrially 10 years ago. So we're in a fairly new food industry here.
Now, you're from Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
So were you growing it back when you were living in Saskatchewan, or?
No, so I left Saskatchewan in 2000, and that's actually about around the year they really legalized hemp and it really started becoming an industry in its own. I actually moved down to the United States with my family, and down there we were seeing in health food stores this hemp seed, and it was always Canadian grown. And as soon as we started eating it, we all loved it and found it to be a true superfood, something that you eat and it keeps you going for a good number of hours before you feel you need more nourishment. And so I've always been inspired by farming, growing up on a farm, but had never thought of it as a career until hemp came into my knowledge, and it was kind of the key for me as how I could get into farming. And so how it happened was my parents were actually contemplating selling the farm in Saskatchewan, and I was just getting this new urge to actually try farming, and hemp was the crop I wanted to do. So I asked my folks if I could rent the farm from them and start a little small-scale hemp farm, and my plan was to grow the seed and then sell it at farmers markets just like any other grower would do. And so they agreed to it, and so in 2007 I went back to the farm with a little bit of savings and a little bit of knowledge of farming, and set out there with my brother, and we actually successfully grew 10 acres of hemp, which came to about 10,000 pounds of seed, so we were pretty proud of ourselves for doing that. And I took it back here to Victoria. I knew the market here was good, and I had been living here a little bit as well. So yeah, we needed the good seed as a vehicle to sell the seed. And
So you grow it in Saskatchewan on the family farm.
Yeah.
And then most of it gets sold here.
Most of it gets sold here. We sell about 70% of our year's supply goes to Vancouver Island, about 30% goes off. So yeah, and of that, 50% is here in Victoria. So Victoria is our major base for all of our sales.
Now, I've probably seen it in health food stores or other
Yeah.
places, but I've never noticed really until I happened to be in
Yeah.
Hemp and Company. So what are the products that you sell?
So the main product we sell is hemp hearts, which is just the whole hemp seed with the shell having been removed. So it's the inner nut inside of the
And
seed.
I just tasted some, and it's very oily.
Very
Right,
oily,
okay.
yeah. 30% of the weight of the seed is omega-3 and 6 oil.
So it's a very good oil.
Very, very good oil. It's heart healthy, brain healthy oil. Yeah.
Okay,
And there's
so
even actually a trace 3% omega-9, which is a very rare omega oil, but we do need it in small doses. So Hemp even has that one to deliver as well.
Okay. So you sell the hemp hearts. You also sell the whole seed.
Yeah, we sell the whole seed as a snack with a little bit of sea salt on it. We sell the protein powder, which is great for putting in smoothies and adding to baking. And we also actually sell wild rice, which is not related to hemp, but it's a product from Saskatchewan that we really think of as a superfood. It's a high protein rice. It goes back culturally, it's a native food to Canada. It was grown by the Aboriginal people and still is. And so we thought that would be a good fit in our business as well, nutritious food from Saskatchewan.
So how's the business going? You started with 10 acres.
We started with 10 acres. I grew completely on my own in that model, renting the farm from my parents for about 4 years. We had the first 2 years were very successful, weather-wise, production-wise, and then Saskatchewan had some very wet years. 2009 and 2010 were particularly wet, and our yields were just way less. Some of the weed problems were more severe than we had wished, and so our actual yield was lower than what we were selling. So we moved into more brokering. We had to seek out other farmers who we could buy grain from and then process it and bring to market. So around that time, our business model shifted a little bit to farming and brokering as well. And on the 5th year, my parents actually saw what was happening and they saw the potential for farming, and they started farming in 2012, and I took more of a step that's more firmly in Victoria on the marketing end. I was finding the back and forth to be fairly tough anyways, flying to Saskatchewan to put in a solid month of seeding the crop, coming back to Victoria and then flying out in the fall. So now that my parents are doing it full time, it feels like a more natural model. There's people on the farm focused on quality control of the production, and then I'm on this side focusing on the packaging, food safe side, and the marketing, getting it out there.
Now, you're one farm, but you said it's actually a pretty big crop across Canada, and you said that especially that you grow organically, but you said most organic growers on the prairies, part of their farm will be in hemp.
Totally, yeah. So when hemp got legalized back in 1998, 99, 2000, those were the 3 kind of trial years, it was soon found out that hemp does not require herbicide. Generally, it's so vigorous that it'll grow above any other weeds, usually drowning them out or hindering them so much that your crop will look like pure hemp, and it will mostly be. Pesticide, there's very few bugs that will go in and destroy a hemp crop, so pesticides there's really none registered for use in hemp. So for an organic farmer, it really makes sense to add to the rotation. And on the marketing end too, hemp, just on the farm gate price, farmers often get a much better price than if you compared it to oats or wheat or barley. So organic farmers are well suited to get into hemp. And I would venture a guess that 80 to 90% of organic farmers who are grain farmers would be growing hemp for sure.
It's amazing to me because this whole thing is totally under my radar. You never hear about it, but I think you also said that Canada is the #1 hemp producer in the world right now.
We're producing more hemp seed than any other nation, and there's a big market for it. The Americans eat most of our hemp seed, actually. Most of it is grown and exported right there. It's big in Japan, it's even big in Europe where they grow hemp already, but Canadian hemp seed has a name for being really healthy, and our growing conditions our environment is seen by most of the world as pristine. And
if only they knew.
If only they knew what was happening in the tar sands. Yeah, exactly. So there's a huge amount of hemp grown in Canada now, and it grows every year. Demand for hemp grows by about 30% every year. So if farming doesn't keep up with that, then there's just more demand than there is supply. So more people find out about it and how nutritious it is, the more people want to start eating it. So
now, it seems like a really good business to be in, just from the business end of it, which seems to be important in Canada right now.
Yeah, it's a good business to be in. I think the growth is there. Our business we've had very slow but steady growth. Like, my business has never shrunk since we've started it. There's definitely room for growth. We're hoping to expand into the United States a little more. There is such a captive market there of people who really want Canadian hemp, and need more options.
Is hemp grown in the United States?
It's not. So America is the only industrial nation in the world that still has a ban on hemp. But they do allow the importation of Canadian hemp because they know that we have such a good standard here. Health Canada monitors all the hemp that's grown in Canada. They issue the permits to allow you to grow it. Part of growing it and getting your permit is that you have to allow Canadian food inspection agents on your land to take samples to test it, make sure that you're growing low THC hemp. And so through that, the Americans know that no hemp coming from Canada will have more than 0.001% THC, which is very...
Except for that other cash crop we have,
which is, of course, right now, illegal.
So I'm surprised that there's this big industry that I knew nothing about, and it produces, it seems, a wonderful food.
Yep.
Can people cook with hemp if it's in a different form, or is it not really something that you'd cook up like?
The beauty of it is, partly as a food, the beauty of it is that it is raw, and you can get all the digestible protein without cooking it. Whereas a lot of the beans, lentils, those kind of plant proteins have to be cooked or sprouted.
What's your favorite way of eating it from these?
My favorite is for sure the hemp heart. I like to put the hemp heart on my cereal, or you can cook a meal and then put the hemp hearts in right before you eat it. So keep it more like a condiment on your table.
Right, and the hemp heart, it's strictly the inside of the seed. There's no grit or anything like that.
We've taken as much of the shell off as we can. So it's just the protein and the oil and a little bit of the fiber.
So you make a salad, you sprinkle on the hemp heart, and what you're getting is high protein and omega oils.
High oil, yeah.
Now, this is what you market, but hemp actually has many other uses as well. And you said it kind of bugged you or surprised you that we're not producing, for example, paper, fiber. Maybe you can go into that a bit.
Yeah, true. That is one of the things about the hemp industry in Canada that I find a little unsettling is we produce so much acreage of hemp, but it's almost exclusively for seed.
And for food.
For food, for the seed for the food. So a lot of farmers will cut off the top of the hemp plant because the seed only actually grows on the top 1.5 to 2 feet of the plant, and the rest is a big long stalk.
How tall is the plant?
The average would be 5 feet of pure stalk with the extra 1.5 being seed. So it's a 7 foot tall crop when it's fully grown. And so that fiber that's left over once the seeds are all taken off is extremely strong. It's strong as a rope, strong as a sail. And so a lot of farmers, unfortunately in Canada, will find a way to get it off of their field as efficiently and cheaply as possible, which actually is burning it. A lot of farmers will just wait for it to dry, set it ablaze, and then they can just cultivate the field afterwards. And there's a bit of nutrition from the ash, but I mean, it's very minimal.
Yeah. Now, you said the problem is you can't till it into the ground because it's so tough.
Yes,
machinery will not.
It's so tough that traditional tillage equipment like a disker or a cultivator, if you tried to mow down your hemp crop, it would just tangle.
Okay, so all of that 5 feet of growth is going to waste, but in fact, there are lots of great products.
Yes, we could make, there's composite plastics now that we can make out of the hemp fiber.
I thought that came out of the seeds only.
No, that's coming out of the fiber. Yes, they're pressing it together, adding some.
Okay, so we don't need the tar sands then.
No, really, we don't. You can make clothes, of course, out of the fibers, and paper is a huge one too. Paper, it's actually quite stunning. Four acres of forest is what produces the same amount of paper as 1 acre of hemp, and you have to, wait 25 years to harvest that forest, whereas the hemp, you could harvest it every year. So it produces 4 times the pulp in 1 annual season. So that in itself could revolutionize the paper industry. So that's what I find shocking about the hemp industry is that we produce all this seed, but there's no industry has come forward yet to produce paper or fiber or composite plastics out of hemp fiber. It's all still in the research and development stage, which is great that we're there. But I have a feeling that if our neighbors to the south ever legalized, they'll be making rope and cloth that same year, So.
And it makes, I think, a very good quality paper, and it makes a very good quality fabric as well.
Totally, yeah. Some would say much better than cotton and much better than wood paper. So,
And also it makes an excellent plastic, probably a lot cleaner than using oil.
petroleum, yeah, for sure, by far.
Well, you know, it seems that here is this great industry, and instead of pushing it as the country should be doing, it's not getting there. So
We're not getting the full potential yet, no. But hopefully, you know, in another 5 to 10 years, we'll be getting there. Now that the research and development is actually starting in some places, we can hope that we're going to be producing Canadian-grown hemp clothes and Canadian-grown hemp paper soon.
yeah, plus it would take a huge strain off of our forests. And cotton, or plastics, which all of our clothes come from, aside from hemp, is not, I mean, cotton is the #1 user, I think, of pesticides.
It is, yeah.
And here's a product that grows without the use of pesticides. It seems like a great crop.
It does, yeah. That's why you have this whole kind of subculture of people even called hempsters, or, you know, hemp people, because we know about the opportunity. It's just the reality of it is the infrastructure to build those factories we're talking millions of dollars. This isn't just a machine. Like, you couldn't start a hemp processing facility with $50,000. You'd need 20
Well, our
times
provincial
that,
government
you know.
just spent $500 million on a new roof for BC Place, so maybe they should be investing a little bit in this.
Yeah, that's
Unfortunately,
true.
we're almost out of time. We got about a minute left. What is your future plan for yourself and the industry?
So I want to stay involved with the hemp industry, and now that my folks are on the farm, I'm just going back there and doing more like research and development with them, and they're taking on the lead role. But I hope that our farm can keep on the cutting edge of using the fiber. We don't burn our fiber. We use it for animal bedding. We use it for erosion control. Simple, non-intensive uses of it, but still it's better than burning it off. We're expanding our marketing into the United States, hopefully going to get into Seattle and Portland and those close areas. And we're working with a musician humanitarian named Taj Weeks, who's traveling through the States playing his music, and he's going to be promoting our business down there for us. And we'll be donating 1% of our proceeds to his nonprofit charity called TOCO, T-O-C-O.
Okay, so if people Google Toco, they'll find out about it. I've got one last question. What is the effect of growing hemp on the soil?
So the effect of growing hemp on the soil, when the hemp plant gets to its full maturity and starts to produce a seed, it loses a lot of its leaves. All of its leaves will fall off, and because it has such a deep taproot, it actually brings up some minerals from the subsoil, puts them in the leaf, and then drops that litter back onto the surface. So there's an increase in your trace mineral content after you grow hemp. It does deplete nitrogen in your soil too, so farmers who would want to grow another intense crop the next year would be better suited to grow like a legume
Link,
crop.
I'm afraid we're out of time.
No problem.
Thank you
No
so
problem.
much for doing this. It's been very informative, interesting. Hemp. Thanks for watching Citizens Forum. Thank you.